7:30, we call the meeting to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call.
Here. There you go.
21 supervisors are present. Supervisor O'Day and Geertsen are excused.
Okay, citizen comments. Is there any citizen that would like to speak? Any citizen that would like to speak, please come to the podium. State your name and address for the record, please.
15 Lakeshore Drive, Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin. First of all, again, always want to remember to thank each of you for your volunteer work, your civil service to this community. We forget to say that. Each of you devote so much time, and we thank you. My message is simple. Please do not increase the number of locations that allow the possession of guns. Many private establishments post no guns, no weapons, for a reason. Guns do not make you safer. If you want less violence, have fewer guns. It's really that simple. If current insurance coverage is an issue, provide appropriate insurance riders. Do not let the monopolistic insurance company decide our policies. We should decide what we want. Ultimately, the fewer guns there are, the less it will cost our municipalities. Thank you for listening to my comments.
Okay, please state your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes.
I'm Gail Clark Taylor. My address is 7624 18th Avenue. I'm here tonight also to speak to this lessening of the gun ban. Those of you that have proposed this and voting in favor of it, at least exploring the idea, I've come to the conclusion that you are personally thinking that you are much safer if you go around with a gun. But that is a very narrow viewpoint here. As a government, as a country that's concerned about everyone, we need to be concerned about everyone that is going into these county buildings. We need to be concerned about the employees. Do they feel safer when anyone can be coming in with a gun? We need to be concerned about the general public that goes into these buildings to assess various services and programs that can assist them. Are they going to feel safer knowing they're going into a building where there might be someone with guns? And I think the general answer to that is no. As the previous speaker spoke, we have many private situations, businesses that are saying, we don't want guns. And I think we have to expand our thinking to think about the greater good, to think not just about ourselves feeling safer if we're carrying a gun, but think about the entire community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other citizen wish to speak?
My name is George Arf, 7801 88th Avenue in Pleasant Prairie. I was at the last meeting where this was brought up, and I have a couple of issues First is, the rigorous CCL training has been held up as a demonstration of the lengths that some of the board members will go to ensure public safety. That's a 1 or 2 day CCL course isn't really a whole lot. In 1969, I went through basic training with 240 healthy young males. We were being trained how to avoid dying in Vietnam. 6 of the 8 weeks involved intense weapons training, and at the end, there were approximately 50% who passed marksmanship by barely adequate scores. Additionally, there was a small handful who, if they stood with the muzzle of their M14s resting on the toe of their boot, couldn't shoot themselves in the foot. Now, you'll excuse me if 1 or 2 days of concealed carry class doesn't fill me with awe and respect. Now, the rest of here was designed to do since there's no automatic viewing of the current resolution, I had gone through the whole thing and ready to do it, one line by another. But there's the second whereas. The right to bear arms is defined and protected by the Constitution of the United States and the Second Amendment of the Bill of Rights. Well, it's only protected by the Bill of Rights. It's not mentioned at all in the Constitution, so the words "and" "the" need to be removed from this thing anyway. Next, the inclusion of that statement foreshadows that Kenosha and the state as a whole is being primed in an attempt to create a Second Amendment sanctuary. That's an issue for a different time, not this one, but we'll get to that, I assume, down the road. If this is passed, you've passed the concealed carry portion. This has nothing to do with concealed carry. What this has to do with is allowing guns by people who are qualified to walk on in, hopefully with a concealed carry, but this is an open carry state. That means that somebody's going to come in with their AR-15 or their hunting rifle or whatever, and as soon as the signs come down saying that no guns, no arms are allowed, that opens it all up. And who's going to be protected here? The 1 or 2 of you who want to pass this resolution might feel protected, but if you're in this building, what good does that do for the people at the job center or some other place? If you want to protect, then get something done about a guard down in the bottom, something like that. I don't want to hear about a bad guy with the gun will just do whatever he wants. If that's true, we shouldn't be here at all. The idea of this resolution is that you're trying to come up with a rule that's going to prevent somebody who has a concealed carry license from having to leave their poor little gun out in the car. That's sad, but the gun will survive. Nobody else is going to get hurt by that gun. Nobody else is going to get hurt by somebody walking in through the door with his rifle or his shotgun and taking his anger out. So, whereas all of this beautiful idea has been brought forth, when you remove the signage, there's an implied safety in that signage that you cannot bring a weapon in here. As soon as that signage comes down, that safety is gone. And it has nothing to do with liability protections or anything. It's an implied thing that will be destroyed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak?
Good evening. My name is Heidi Helgeson. My address is 6507 40th Avenue, and I thought I only had 3 minutes. So I'm going to maybe be a little bit more verbose than I anticipated being. I, again, as our friend before said, thank you for your service, and I appreciate your being here, and I hope we all can take these proceedings seriously. On June 2nd, I emailed the county executive and each of the 23 county supervisors. I requested that they report to me, informing me of how many constituents contacted them regarding the weapons ban, and to share how many were for and against lifting the ban. I requested that this information be sent to me by 5 p.m. today. I further asked that each of you verify whether you understood what I requested and when I wanted it. I'm a retired teacher, so I know it shows. To date, Samantha Kirkman did not respond. William Grady did not respond. Terry Rose did not respond. Jeffrey Gentz did not respond. Laura Belsky said that she had received several emails and phone calls, as well as talking to people while she was out. She did not keep track of the numbers, but said that they did not want the ban lifted. Brian Thomas, I received an email from him, or he received one email but didn't remember whether it was for or against lifting the ban. Edward Kubicki did not respond. Daniel Geschke thanked me for emailing him but did not respond to my request. Zach Rodriguez did not respond. John O'Day said that he does not agree with lifting the ban, but he didn't answer my request as to how many constituents he'd heard from. Andy Berg received a number of emails but could not verify whether they were from his district. He had 4 in-person conversations in his neighborhood of people who were opposed to lifting the ban. Zach Stock, my supervisor, did not respond. Gabe Nudo did not respond. John Franco said 35 people were against lifting the ban, 2 were for lifting the ban, and 1 was unknown. Tim Stocker reached out with me, and we were able to have coffee, and I appreciate you taking the time to do that. I am apparently the only correspondent he had, and I am opposed to lifting the ban. Dave Gerstin emailed me stating that he received my request and clearly understood it, but did not respond to the request. And Amanda Nedwiski did not respond. Brian Bayshaw did not respond. John Poole did not respond. Mark Nordigan did not respond. Aaron Decker did not respond. Aaron Caro did not respond. Monica Uhas did not respond. Jeff Wambolt did not respond. The response rate is roughly 5 out of 24, roughly 20%. I would like to remind you again that you are elected representatives. You represent your constituents, and it is your duty to govern in the interest of your constituents and not in your own interests. I, as well as others, will be watching and expect you to rise to the level of accountability that is befitting the offices that you have been elected to. I would also like to make a statement about Supervisor Bayshaw. It came to my attention that during the committee meeting last week, you said some people hate America because they speak out against guns. My first thought was, I must be mistaken. A grown man and an elected official would never possibly think that because I disagree with him that I hate America. That would not only be erroneous, it would be reckless and divisive. But I imagine that any elected official worth his salt who made such a mistake would want to publicly apologize and commit to behaving better in the future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you.
Veronica King, 5518 34th Avenue, Kenosha. In March of 1965, the president declared a war on crime. In June of 1971, the president declared a war on drugs. Today, we clearly have a war on guns, and yet the Kenosha County Board wants to vote on lifting the ban that we have on firearms and guns in our county buildings, with the exception of the courthouse, the pretrial building, and the public safety building. You should be ashamed of yourselves. Okay? We have an issue right now in this country with the opiate epidemic. We have mass incarceration, and now we have gun violence. And of all times, to render a decision regarding guns in public buildings in this county, now or never is the appropriate time to do so. I advise you to vote against this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak?
My name is Jody Muirhoff. I live at 7220 First Avenue, and I'm here to speak against the proposed amendment to Resolution 63. As a citizen, this elected board is supposed to represent my interest, and it's incredibly discouraging to me that the first policy this board is taking up is increasing guns in our public spaces. There are so many issues worthy of this board's attention: homelessness, food insecurity, mental health services, infrastructure, yet Supervisor Aaron Decker proposes more guns in public spaces as the absolute top priority of this new board to improve the quality of life in Kenosha. I attended the Judiciary and Law Committee meeting where this resolution was discussed and passed. It was frankly disappointing to hear that the majority of the supervisors on that committee didn't seem to value rules and laws. I heard several times that bad guys won't follow the rules anyway, so what's the point of having a no guns sign posted? Those words were spoken by the very people in our county who are supposed to be the leaders when it comes to establishing order. Some of them actually ran on a platform of law and order. Yet they said they don't see the value in rules and laws, or at least when it comes to rules and laws they don't like. If you follow that logic to its conclusion, why would we have laws or ordinances against vandalizing property, or against robbery, or against arson, or even against murder, since bad guys won't obey anyway? I'll answer that question. While not all people follow the rules and obey the law, having rules and laws in place does act as a deterrent. A reasonable subset of people will decide ignoring a rule or breaking the law is not worth the punishment, thereby reducing the number of people who break the rule or engage in that behavior. We'll never have 100% adherence with any rule or law, but we can deter people from breaking rules and laws by actually having rules and laws in place. And that includes no firearm signs. And yes, people who don't comply with that signage are bad guys, permanent or not. If you don't understand that, you probably shouldn't be sitting on the Judiciary and Law Committee. But to speak on this proposed amendment, the statistics are very clear that gun usage in self-defense occurs in less than 1% of violent crimes. Numerous studies also show that using guns for self-defense is literally no more effective than any other defensive measure. The data is also very clear that more guns mean more gun violence. Yet I heard Police Officer Jeff Wambold, who surely has access to that data and who sits on the Judiciary and Law Committee, defend allowing more guns in our public spaces with the statement that some people in Kenosha have defended themselves with a gun. And I'm sure that's true. But what I would like to know is how many times in Kenosha County has law enforcement been called to a scene where someone lost their temper for a moment and killed another person with a gun which they were legally permitted to have? How many times in Kenosha County has law enforcement been called to a scene where someone lost their temper for a moment and injured another person with a gun they were legally permitted to have? Having a gun can shift what starts as a minor disagreement into a deadly encounter. County employees and the public regularly experience minor disagreements in our county buildings due to the sensitive and sometimes tense nature of government business, and now you want to add guns into that mix. According to the FBI, law enforcement agencies, and the Wisconsin Department of Justice, the data on gun violence in Wisconsin is also very clear. In 2011, when the law changed allowing concealed weapons to be publicly carried, except where no firearm signs were displayed like in our county buildings, gun violence in our state increased measurably as a result. Gun-related homicides increased, gun-related assaults increased, aggravated assaults with a gun increased, and assaults with a gun against law enforcement officers increased. More guns mean more gun violence, period. Please vote no on this amendment. Please do not allow guns into our county buildings. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening. Pardon me. Good evening, board members, members of the public. My name is Joel Trudell of 8201 43rd Avenue, Kenosha. Please allow me to congratulate each of you on your recent election victories. There were some very close elections. Supervisor Rodriguez, you would agree, right? Easter baskets, winning an election like that, who would have known? Some are not satisfied with their newly acquired positions. Isn't that right, Supervisor, from the 16th? You've had your seat for what, 3 weeks? I am here tonight to speak against new business item number 1, Supervisor Decker's resolution to amend 2011 Resolution 63 and allow firearms and electronic weapons in any building or grounds owned, leased, or controlled by Kenosha County, ... Supervisors, who are you here for? What interests are you representing? I'm here for my 6-year-old girl, Lorelei, and that I don't have to be a human shield for her because we decided to play at a county park. Supervisor Mark Nordigan, is Supervisor Decker's resolution your priority? Who are you representing? I'm here for my 8-year-old girl, Vivian, so she is not the victim of a stray bullet from a pretend hero deciding to stand his ground against some other guy with a gun. Supervisor Brian Bashaw, what about Supervisor Decker's resolution is a priority? What interests are you representing? Are you Jeffrey Wambolt here to represent the Kenosha County employees that are not interested in workplace arguments resulting in bullets? Jeff, what are you representing? Supervisor Zach Stock, what interests do you have in mind? Have you not listened to Sheriff Beth? Aren't you here for the deputies that are not interested in accidentally shooting the supposed good guy with a gun while risking their own lives in an active shooter situation? Supervisor Aaron Caro, who exactly are you representing with your support of Decker's amendment? Are you representing our county that is already struggling to find and retain human resources? How will this amendment attract the best talent? Supervisor Brian Thomas, what interests are important to you? Based on your limited time in county government, you display the desire for more bullets and fewer ballots. Supervisor Thomas, why are you more afraid of ballots than bullets? Are you typically intimidated by the voice of the people? If guns made communities safe, Kenosha would be the safest on earth. If safety is not the goal, what is the goal? Who, what are you representing? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Please hold your applause. Anybody else wish to speak? Anybody else wish to speak?
Good evening. My name is Bruce Milne. I live in Pleasant Prairie. And I came to speak out against the resolution as well.
Could you please give us your address for the record?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Could you give us
I'm
your
sorry.
address for the
Yeah.
record?
My address is 9936 50th Avenue.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm a father, I'm a grandfather, and this tragedy in Uvalde really affected me. To see little children killed with guns is just appalling. And we had the incident in Buffalo, which was racially motivated. Again, you know, high-powered weapons. In some cases, these people have better firepower than the police do. Speaking of police, if you really support the badge, really support the police, you would not want to take away this ban on guns in public places. Most police officers want less guns on the street, and they want more gun control, sane gun control. If you get a ghost gun, if you buy a gun at a private party, you don't have to do a background check. This is insanity. We need to really decrease the violence in this country. It's getting out of hand. Has the conceal and carry law that was passed, has that decreased crime in Wisconsin? I don't think so. So please take this resolution very seriously. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, yes, hi, I'm Jennifer Franco. My address is 10732 64th Street. In the last few weeks, we have once again been rocked to our core as we experience yet again the trauma of multiple mass shootings in this country. And to add salt to these emotional wounds, we learned that 2 of the first resolutions from our new Kenosha County Board involve allowing more guns in county buildings, as well as creating a Second Amendment sanctuary state. Really? Are you kidding me? Not only are these highly inappropriate and tone deaf, but they actually will not make us safer. At the Judiciary and Law Committee last week, there were a couple supervisors who mentioned that having more guns is going to make us safer. If that were the case, we would be the safest country on the planet. And we all know that's not true. We have more guns in this country than any other country on earth. And we have more homicides and suicides due to gun violence than any other country on earth. More guns is not going to make us more safe. Actually, there is no evidence. I looked. I'm an English teacher. I'm good at research. There's none. No evidence to suggest that expanding public carry reduces violence. A robust body of academic literature shows that when more people carry guns in public, guess what? Violent crime increases. In addition, there's no research. Please find it if you can, because I looked, and I'm good at research. There's none that suggests expanding public carry has any public safety benefits. You know what does make us safer and what makes me feel safer? Our police officers right here. I don't need anybody else in here with a gun. You know what else would make me feel safer and probably make us safer? We can add metal detectors downstairs to make sure that everybody coming in doesn't have a gun. But if this thing passes, I just want you to imagine we're going to be allowing anybody and everybody in this building. So just imagine anybody in this building right now could have a concealed weapon right now. And we won't know if they legally are allowed to have that because nobody's going to be checking them. I don't know about you, but that terrifies me. And also the fact that we have so many issues in this country with mental illness, and there are probably some people in here who are struggling with this. We have so many issues with drug and alcohol addiction and abuse. Many of you probably are struggling with this or know people who are. And we have the highest levels of anxiety, anger issues, and stress. We've had very difficult couple years. And you seriously want to add guns to the mix? Are you kidding me right now? Now, I know there are some of you that see yourselves as these defenders, that I'm going to save the day, right? If we have an active shooter in this building. Well, here's the thing. Here's a little more research for you. Firearms are rarely used successfully in self-defense. In fact, individuals successfully defend themselves with a gun in less than 1% of cases. It's not going to happen, you guys. I know you want to be heroes, but it's not going to happen. In the rare instances in which firearms are used in self-defense, guess what? Research shows that using a firearm did not reduce a person's chance of being injured. You know what, actually? Carrying a firearm may actually increase your risk of firearm injury. Oh yeah, and you might accidentally kill somebody or hurt somebody in the process. There are a number of you on this board that just joined this board, and in your campaign literature, you said, goal number 1, you wanted to ensure public safety. Well, here you go. Here's your chance. You can ensure the public safety by voting down this resolution. Here's your chance. Do the right thing for God's sake.
Hello, my name is Phil Haney. I live at 6328 7th Avenue, Kenosha, 53143. I'm in Terry Rose's district. I forget right off what the district number is, and I won't say yes or no because I don't know how this resolution is even worded. I do know that we need to restrict guns, either open carry or concealed carry in all of our public spaces, schools, councils, city hall, and you know it could be one day it could be the people in this room, and then what are you going to do? And you know, like in Uvalde, Texas, recently at the school, the news reports say there were 19 or more in and around the school of police officers with guns while the young man was in shooting 6, 7-year-old children. You know, in this room, I noticed there's 5 policemen here, but a person coming in with conviction, or 2 people, with machine pistols, either concealed or open carry, and you know, they can hold 20, 30 rounds. It could kill everyone, the police officers first, and then everybody else, before there's even a reaction. So last week, I read one regular reads, the New York Times, David Brooks, who used to call himself a conservative, used to identify with the Republican Party. I noticed that lately, in the last several years, he doesn't do that anymore. I wonder why. And you know, and so I think it's. I hate to bring in the politics, but I can't help but remember that we just got a new county executive, and Samantha Kirkman, a Republican, and it's not a coincidence that this is why the why people are bringing this to the issue now to the county board. Let's let them carry guns in every room, which I think is totally crazy. But David Brooks said last week in a column that this has gone way beyond practical governance. This has gone way beyond politics. This has become a moral issue. And he said citizens that don't stand up and speak out are complicit. Even more, elected officials and executives that don't speak out are complicit, and the guilt, where they will share the guilt with person that does the shooting. We don't want or need guns in public spaces. Now, the Republican Party, you know, first political meeting I ever went to as a teenager, I was a Republican until I eventually figured out I don't think I belong here. And I've been, most of my life has been in the union movement. So the Republican Party, you know, I read history, and the Republican Party has a long, proud tradition that has been dragged down, and it's not a proud, very few people like David Brooks will not identify with it anymore. And I'm 79 years old, halfway through my year to, I'll be 80 in a few months. And so I don't care anymore. You know, you got to speak out, and you know, I'm willing to call these people out, the people who carry guns. Now, I can't speak for the ladies, but I can speak for men. And men who carry guns are bullies. Men who carry guns are cowards. I don't need a gun. The men who want to carry guns are guilty of, men who carry a gun are guilty of irrational thought. Men who carry guns are insecure, let's face it, insecure in their manhood. I carry my manhood in an athletic supporter, commonly called a jockstrap. I don't need a gun. I've never owned a gun, and I'm not going to own a gun. And you know, if you're nearing 80 years old, you don't give a darn anymore. I started to say S word, but you don't care anymore. So people talk about the Second Amendment, the Holy Second Amendment, but the Second Amendment on the U.S. Constitution talks about.
Let's wrap it up. Your time is up, sir.
Okay, I'll finish real quick. It talks about the need to provide for an effective militia, local militia. But, you know, that does not include everyone carrying guns on the street. And, you know, about the thing about the police protecting us, I respect and I'm glad these guys are here. But, you know, a person with automatic guns, rifles, pistols, you know, whatever, concealed or not, would
Thank you, sir. We have other people that want
to.
Your time is up, sir. Please.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry, for being my alderman and for being my county supervisor.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
My name is Gay Baldwin. I live at 1969 East Lakeshore Drive in Twin Lakes. As I was coming here, I met a woman on the sidewalk. Happy about this resolution. A problem. Why do you want to mess it up? Why now? Why now when the country's in such a position that we've had all these new shootings? The country as a whole is very in favor of gun control. People are reminding themselves that the Heller decision says that the right to bear arms and to own them is restricted to your house for self-defense. It's not a general right to carry arms in public. And there was a really interesting thing in the New York Times, I think it was today, where they published the preamble to, they published the section about bearing arms and a well-regulated militia that's in the Virginia Constitution that I believe Jefferson had a hand in writing. And it explains very well what a militia is. And a militia is not what people are fantasizing it is. It was basically a police force because we didn't have police forces back then. And it was the only way to have any kind of army you could call to help defend the state against exterior enemies, because there was no standing army. And in that Virginia Constitution, it specifically says they advise against a standing army. That's why they wanted to allow people to keep arms. Well, of course, those arms back then are not the arms we have now. But you, as a county, would have the right to say, okay, you can bear arms in this county, but it has to be arms that existed back when the Constitution was written. If you wanted to, you guys have that power. You could restrict the arms that people are allowed to bear, because counties can do that. You could restrict the arms that people are allowed to bear here to guns that have biometric trigger locks. That would be acceptable. That's perfectly constitutional. You could say that anyone who carries firearms in this county or guns of any sort has to have insurance. You guys can do all those things, and all those things would make our county safer against guns. This is a county which has covered itself in infamy in the last few years and has been discovered as one of the more racist places in our country. And I really think this is a very poor time to push us in the direction of even more infamy as a place that is not only saying, we don't care if people get shot on our streets, if they try to rouse peaceful demonstrators and hurt them, we don't care. We're going to make it easier to do this sort of thing. I think that's a terrible, terrible mistake. We don't need any more infamy here or around the world. So another thing is that if you vote for this resolution, as last week, changes proposed to this resolution, which I don't see reflected in the current version here. I hope they are, but if they are, you still have some outstanding contradictions in your resolution, so I wouldn't vote for it just on that basis. You better read it over very carefully first. Concerning the immunity, legal immunity for employers that allow employees to carry guns. That was not, it was explained at the committee meeting that that is not pertinent to this situation at all, because the reverse is not true. If an employer says you can't carry a gun, that doesn't make them liable if something happens. Okay. And I'm sorry to say that that clause was not eliminated from this current resolution, as it should have been after this was said would be. Okay, so the other thing the county could do, since this is a new board, and thank you all very much for letting me speak here, by the way, and I appreciate your service, and I'm sure there's quite a steep learning curve at the beginning of your service for some of you. One way you could really find out how the county feels about this measure is have a little referendum, if you need to. I would not simply assume that because your own feelings are pro-gun, that that's how the people you represent feel. And one reason I'm concerned about the timing right now is because this is such a divisive moment in the country and such a critical moment about gun control. And I really would be aghast to imagine that anybody here would be supporting things like this in order to demonstrate their bona fides with the Republican Party.
Let's try to wrap it up. Your time is up.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Right.
So many more things to say, but I will try to include them in a letter. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you for your comments.
Hi, I'm Amanda Becker. I'm at 1807 81st Street. Thank you all for your service. I'm here to speak against the resolution to amend the 2011 Resolution 63. As many of the folks around me, I'm very disappointed that one of the first pieces of legislation coming from this new board is centered around allowing guns in county buildings. Why aren't we focusing on healthcare, housing, opioids, quality of life, diversity, equity, inclusion? There are many more things we could be focusing on than allowing guns in county buildings. Gun violence is at an epidemic level in our society, with almost daily reports of mass shootings in America. To those that authored this resolution and motioned to move it out of committee for a full board vote, your inability to read the room astounds me. In preparation for today's meeting, I reviewed the revised legislation and came away with the following reasons why the committee would like to pass it. Because the Second Amendment says that I can carry a gun. Is an individual walking into county buildings, walking into Brookside, considered a well-regulated militia? I don't think so. To grant immunity from liability arising from an individual not being able to conceal carry, potentially risking taxpayer money? This is a hypothetical situation. There are thousands of hypothetical situations. Are we going to legislate all of them? I sure hope not. Because the city of Kenosha didn't ban the lawful carrying of a firearm on city property, it could be confusing when moving from city to county buildings. There are signs that are out there that are clearly posted. I've seen them all over the place. If folks can't follow that posted sign and it's too confusing, should these folks be entering a county building with a firearm? I don't think so. Because folks entering a county building with a firearm may have to leave it in the car, which the city of Kenosha discourages due to car break-ins and thefts. I'm with that. Why don't we all plan ahead so we don't find ourselves in that situation? I'd hope that this is something that responsible gun owners are capable of doing. There is no method in place to enforce the firearm ban in county buildings. Well, why aren't we solving that problem? Why are we adding more guns to county buildings? Seems common sense to me, but whatever. I'm not an expert in public safety. This policy would apply to county buildings like Brookside, Kemper Center, the administration building, this building right here, this room. Do you want people coming in here to these meetings carrying? If so, what are you so afraid of? Really? I mean, I'm here, I'm armed with citizen comments, not a gun. Come on, people. But anyway, as I mentioned before, enough with my thoughts. I'm not a public safety expert, but in situations like this, I do my research. I look to the experts. I read some articles from Harvard Injury Control Research Center, the Scientific American Journal, the Regional Gun Violence Research Consortium, and more. And I also listen to local experts, like our sheriff. Experts say gun violence is at an epidemic level in our society. More guns in public places do not stop more crimes. Millions of guns are not used in self-defense every year. Firearms are used far more often to intimidate than in self-defense. And very few criminals are shot by law-abiding citizens. Our own sheriff is against this. Due to the additional stressors the increase of guns on public property would put on law enforcement officers. So all of you folks running for public safety and having that as your number one concern, you're not going to listen to the expert, the person who is, in charge of the safety and the law and order in Kenosha County. Anyway, so all I ask of you is that you please listen to the experts and vote against the resolution. More guns in county buildings are the last things that we need right now. And I think there's a lot more things that you guys could be focusing on to improve the quality of life in Kenosha, and this isn't one of them.
Thank you.
My name is Anthony Kennedy. I reside at 4223 29th Avenue. I'm the alderman of the 10th District. Andy Berg is my county board supervisor, and I'm proud of him. I'm proud of the work that he does continuously to represent his district. I've been in the same situation that some of you have been in. I tried to enact a ban, or I tried to enact a mask mandate in defense of public safety. And some of you who are sitting here today were very vocal against it, to the point that they told me afterwards that we will find someone to run against you. And they did, and I defeated them, and I'm still here. So the question is, what's different between all those people coming and talking about against the mask mandate versus all the people here today talking about this proposed change? He's a hypocrite. He didn't listen to those people, tried to do what he wanted to do anyway. So why should we listen to these people? The difference is, I don't believe you have the data on your side. I took action at City Council because I felt that every level of government above me abdicated their responsibility to protect my constituents, including this body, including our state legislature. And I'm not a doctor, nor do I play one on television. What I am is just a man who got elected to maintain or improve the quality of life for his constituents. And given the World Health Organization, given the CDC, given the Department of Health in Wisconsin, given our Kenosha County Health Department, given our health clinics, giving every continuous level of medical expertise and advice was, hey, we don't know a lot, but let's try these mask things. Let's try and see what we can do, okay? I'm not an expert. I was not an expert, but I thought I had data on my side, and I tried. I really tried. And the only reason I did was to try to prevent more harm and suffering to my constituents. I don't think you can say this is apples to apples. I would ask that you table this and have some focused discussions with the employees of our county. Let's see if they have some ideas on how to protect taxes, or when someone's getting their house foreclosed, or when someone cannot do the thing they want to do because it's against our rules and regulations, and our employees, the people we're supposed to protect are on the front line of that. Let's talk to them. Let's have some discussion. Let's see what ideas bubble up from those who are engaged with the public every single day. Now, I think being a Second Amendment sanctuary city is amazing, and I got some more ideas for you. I think you should be a 16th Amendment sanctuary city. Stop the collection of taxes by Congress. I think you should be a 15th Amendment sanctuary city so that we can stop people from voting and you can keep supporting the big lie that Trump won. I think you should have a 13th Amendment sanctuary city as an answer to tight labor situation. Let's get them slaves back in place, huh? Let's get them back here because we can then eliminate this tight labor situation. So let's become a 13th Amendment sanctuary city. And then finally, those pesky undocumented workers, let's become a 14th Amendment sanctuary city. Don't stop at the Second Amendment, guys. 16th, 15th, 13th, and 14th. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is Carolyn Felt, 3807 Van Buren Road. I'm a former employee of yours. Thank you for listening to me and considering my perspective. I appreciate your patience and decorum. If, after hearing all of these speakers, you must lift the ban on guns in county buildings, I urge you to add the Human Services Building to your list of exempt facilities. I worked there for years and can testify that it serves all of us, some of us at our lowest points. In that building, babies get their shots, employees get TB tests, veterans, some of them with PTSD, get help. Foster kids get safe homes. People get health insurance, job search training, leads on senior housing, assistance with food and transportation. With all that help, it's also the place where bad news must be given by your staff. You don't qualify for help. Your benefits are ending. A child is removed from their home. You have an infection. A child support order got changed. Your parents' dementia will get worse. There's no money to pay for what you need. Desperate people do desperate things, regardless of how good and law-abiding they are most of the time. Your staff at Human Services must bring their best selves to work with your constituents at some of their lowest points. They need a safe workplace to do this. Please don't believe the rhetoric that guns make us safer. Our humanity, our compassion for each other, and our humility in knowing that there, but for the grace of God, go I. That's what makes us Kenosha strong. Please exempt your Human Services building from this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lori Hawkins, 18513 102nd Street, Bristol. I'd like to thank you all for your service and for being here and patiently listening to us this evening. As many people in this room have already said, there's no substance evidence or research that shows that greater legal access to guns leads to less violence, nor that carrying guns in our public spaces by the general public keeps people safer. It doesn't exist. Between 2011 and 2020, the number of concealed carry licenses issued by the Wisconsin Department of Justice rose and fell right along with the number of Wisconsin homicides. In years when concealed carry licenses increased, so did homicides. The opposite is also true. When concealed carry licenses decreased in number, so did the number of homicides. This is not a coincidence. One of the most recent national mass shootings in Uvalde, Texas, where 19 children and 2 teachers were shot to death, involved a legally purchased weapon, a legally carried weapon, and an armed guard at the door. While no one is proposing that firearms be widely allowed in schools yet, the elements are similar. A public building with innocent people inside, attacked by a bad guy with a gun, who could not be kept safer by a good guy with a gun. Adding more guns to an equation isn't a solution, it's elevating the problem. The excuse of increased liability that this resolution has mentioned is a smokescreen, a case of creating a means to an end when it comes to rolling back the 2011 resolution number 63 that keeps us safer by keeping guns carried by the public out of our public buildings. Your resolution to amend this does not correct a problem, but it rather creates the illusion of a solution to a problem that does not exist. This committee's proposed solution serves to add to the problem. More guns lead to more violence and more victims of gun violence. In addition, I was at the Judiciary and Law Committee meeting last week and wanted to address something that several members of the committee repeated over and over. Their opinion that those of us who do not want an increase of guns allowed in our public places feel that way because we are afraid. I'm not afraid. This isn't the case. If we are to live in a society that honors safety and the lives of fellow citizens, more guns are not the answer. I'm incredibly discouraged that this is one of the very first issues that some on this board chose to address. We have many needs in Kenosha County to address, and adding more guns to the equation is not one of them. Tonight I wear orange to recognize gun violence awareness, and as you can see, I'm not alone. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak?
Hi, Laverne Jarris, 324 116th Street, Pleasant Prairie. You know that Pleasant Prairie just passed a referendum to increase funding for the police department because we want and trust our police department to enforce the law, not vigilantes. I want to point out that if in your first three be it resolved clauses, and there are many inconsistencies in terms and vagueness about what guns would be allowed under this resolution. If your interest is truly to defend yourselves, then why would you allow offensive, militaristic type weapons in our buildings? Weapons that would further endanger our employees who serve elderly, disabled, veterans, children, all the populations that were pointed out earlier. I can't say much more than what's been eloquently said by others, other than to say that if you're in favor of weaponizing our community, please don't call yourselves pro-life. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak? Anybody else wish to speak?
Good evening. Thank you for your time. My name is Carol McIntaggart. I live at 6675 235th Avenue in Paddock Lake, Wisconsin. I am rising again to speak against removing the ban against guns in our county buildings. Courts have ruled, such as in the Heller decision, that the rules that are guaranteed by the Second Amendment is not a right to keep and carry any guns, any weapons whatsoever, in any manner whatsoever, wherever you want to. They provided examples of laws that are legal, that prohibit firearms in sensitive places such as schools and in government buildings, such as the one that we are in today. This government building provides services and is a place where we can speak openly, safely, candidly, and sometimes have very difficult conversations. Retrospective analysis has shown that since our state has passed our concealed carry law, that Wisconsin has not been safer. We have increased gun-related crimes, gun homicides, aggravated assaults, and in particular, assaults against law enforcement have increased. Please do not allow concealed carries in our county buildings. Please instead install metal detectors in our county buildings and in this sensitive building in particular. Show leadership and courage, and please vote down this resolution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Anybody else wish to speak? Anybody else wish to speak? Citizen comments are closed. Yeah. Announcement of the chairperson. I just have a couple of announcements. First of all, I would like to take a moment of silence to honor former Supervisor Jerry Goley, who left us on May 19th. Thank you. Also, I'd like to welcome Eric Lemire with Youth in Government Human Services Committee. Welcome to our board meeting. Also, another one, I want to congratulate Supervisor Uas for being elected chairman and a unanimous vote on joint services. Congratulations. Okay, that's all I have for now. Supervisor's reports. Supervisor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last week, Wednesday, June 1st, the Judiciary and Law Committee met. Before I get into the details of that, many of you, or all of you, should have received an email I sent to you this evening before the meeting. It was then that I realized the meeting that you were owed from our last meeting was still in my drafts folder. So I have those numbers for you. I'm just going to read them for you tonight. The jail campus, both jail campus populations as of 2 meetings ago, downtown here, we had 115 inmates with a capacity of 336. Out at KCDC, the population was 328 with a potential capacity of up to 600 for a round total of 520. And then the deputies, today we have 94 deputies. 63 of those deputies are doing patrol. 20 years ago, 63 deputies, excuse me, are doing patrol. 20 years ago, that number was 45. So that is the information I owed you from 2 meetings ago. Nonetheless, like I said, we met last week Wednesday to take up 2 agenda items. One of them is before you tonight, and the other one will be before us at our next meeting. In July and in August, we will be touring both jail campuses. If you are interested in taking part in that, we welcome you. New this year as well, we are offering this to our youth and governance members. So to the mentors, if you want to reach out to your mentees and see if they are interested, they will be getting a separate tour because we're not going to walk them through the dorms like we usually walk ourselves through. But in July, we will be out at KCDC, and in August, we will be down here at the pretrial facility. So please let me know if you are interested. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Berg.
On May 25th, I had the opportunity to be invited to and be a part of Dahlia Alanis's Eagle Scout awarding. She's the first in Kenosha County to receive this this award, the Eagle Scout. It was a wonderful ceremony, and through the chair, I would like to ask that we be able to recognize her with a plaque recognizing that fact.
Okay. Well, thank you. Supervisor Nedweski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. From the Human Services Committee, since we last met, I had the opportunity for an in-depth meeting with Rebecca Dutter, our Director of the Kenosha County Division of Aging, Disability, and Behavioral Health Services. Ms. Dutter presented a thorough overview of services offered in these departments. We discussed areas in which the county excels and areas where we face challenges, as well as some possible ideas for future improvements. Ms. Dutter and her staff have some excellent ideas for improving efficiencies while continuing to place the people we serve at the center of all decision-making. In addition, I've had the opportunity to volunteer over the past few weeks at the Village Pub in Silver Lake with owner Nancy Julik and partners from Kafasi, who work together to provide curbside pickup of meals for area seniors on Wednesdays and Fridays. Prior to the pandemic, this meal service was held in the dining room. Many people would like to return to in-person service at this location, and we are currently working with Rebecca Dutter and her staff to coordinate with Kafasi and the Village Pub as to how and when this might be possible. Providers of meal service to seniors are facing unprecedented inflationary food costs, and we hope to be able to find some creative solutions to keep these programs going strong in the coming months, despite our growing economic challenges. Today in committee, we were presented with a plan that has already been approved by the chairman and the county executive to address staffing and recruitment and retention at Brookside and Willowbrook, in addition to a comprehensive presentation on the opioid situation in Kenosha County. These will be ongoing topics that we will revisit frequently on the committee going forward. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other supervisor comments? Any other supervisor comments? Closed.
County executive appointments. 4, Christopher Brown to serve on the Kenosha County Zoning Board of Adjustments.
Refer to Planning Committee.
5, Robert Stoll to serve on the Kenosha County Zoning Board of Adjustments.
Refer to Planning Committee.
Old business ordinance, second reading, 2 required. Ordinance 1 from the Judiciary and Law Enforcement and Finance and Administration Committees, an ordinance for the amendment of MCKC 4.01, the Civil Service Ordinance, passed unanimously at both committees. Supervisor Belsky excused.
Supervisor Rodriguez.
Move ordinance 1.
Moved by Supervisor Rodriguez, second by Supervisor Rose. Supervisor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just getting my notes here. This will probably be easiest to follow along again with the copy I emailed out to everyone before the meeting. That's a redlined version, so it's a little bit easier to read. So at the bottom of the page, number 4.2, there's a series of changes through this. I'm going to walk us through them. The commission had asked the two committees to allow for remote attendance at their commission meetings, except for instances of in-person interviews. That was something that both of our committees struck down. We think, myself and the committees believe that dialogue is best had in person. So that is that change that you'll see was in red, and it's struck in red. The next one is on page 4-3. It talks first about applicant age. We are lowering the age of applicants from 21 down to 20 and a half years of age. We're hoping that this extends the pool of applicants, and they will still have to be 21 upon their date of hire. But we want to start that process a little bit sooner. Next, if you go to page 4-7, we, at the Judiciary and Law and Finance committees, we extended the residency requirement for Kenosha County Sheriff's Department employees, for deputies, from 15 miles as the crow flies to 20 miles as the crow flies. We did this as a way to attract new talent, keep talent who was facing the possibility of having to leave the department because they don't fall within that residency requirement. And this isn't a way for us to say to these folks, you should live 20 miles away. This was us telling these folks who maybe are interested in applying or maybe interested in buying a home a little bit farther away, that they're able to do that. This also allows for instances where maybe both partners are in law enforcement or some other partner, one of the partners has a job that requires them to be so far from their employer. We just gave them a little bit extra leniency here. Moving on, we have on page 4-10, we changed the requirements for the position of captain, and we added at least 4 years of service within the Kenosha County Sheriff's Department and the rank as a lieutenant with a associate's degree as well. What we are seeing is we have very talented men and women in the Sheriff's Department who would otherwise be excellent captains, but they didn't have the 4-year degree, but they possessed a 2-year degree. We want to reward their loyalty to the citizens of Kenosha County and their devotion thereof by making that a little bit easier as well. And I think that's all of them. We have Clara here tonight to go over any questions that you may have that I might not be able to answer, but that, according to my notes, is everything. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Yeah, I got it. Supervisor Decker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to address the email that we received from Kenosha County Sheriff David Beth on May 24th, some of his concerns that he brought up. First of all, in the email he said, this resolution was initially created for one deputy who moved 15.4 miles from the county line. This past weekend, that same deputy was ordered, well, that doesn't matter. This resolution, these changes were not created for that reason. I'd like to ask the chair of the Judiciary and Law Committee, did you know a deputy lived outside the 15-mile line at the time of our committee meeting? I would also like to ask the chair of the Finance Committee if he knew of a deputy that lived outside the 15-mile marker at the time of that committee meeting.
No.
Okay, so that point is moot because that, or what was brought up in the email is incorrect. The next part that I would like to address was, let's see. Further in the email, he states, I was informed that one of the county board members raised a valid issue with a family member who had to leave a job because of a boundary issue between two officers who were married. I myself was that county board supervisor he's talking about. I am very open and believe an exception could be given for extenuating circumstances such as this if the need arose in the future. In the Judiciary and Law Committee meeting, someone asked if any exceptions have ever been made to the 15-mile residency requirement. And the answer that we were given from the Sheriff's Department was no. And we were also told there is no way to ask for an exception in the ordinance. So an exception cannot be granted if there's no way to give one because it's not in the ordinance. And then thirdly, the sheriff states, the take-home squad program has been incredible in getting deputies to the needs our department has at any given moment. This could be from a shooting, a major accident, snow/ice storm, tornado, to almost any other situation where manpower is needed right away. This allows the deputies to put on a uniform and respond directly to the scene with their squads already loaded and ready to assist. The old system used to require the deputies to respond to the safety building, find a supervisor, load up the squad, and then head out to the scene anywhere in the county. I am not sure if you're aware of it or not, but deputies are paid overtime from the moment they receive the call to report to work. Having squads/deputies responding rather long distances before even reaching the county border obviously causes more risks, even though deputies know they are to follow the rules of the road of Kenosha's borders. The 20-mile border could put Kenosha squads out past Delavan, south side of Milwaukee, and as far south as Vernon Hills. It would seem strange to see our cars that far away parked in a driveway. I was quite confused when I read those paragraphs because on page 4-7 of the Civil Service Ordinance, under section 9, it states, except for unit members assigned a vehicle that may be brought home and for whom residency in Kenosha County is required, the established residency boundary for all other unit members is 15 miles in any direction from the borders of Kenosha County. So what that states is if you live outside Kenosha County, you do not get a take-home vehicle. That's in our ordinance. Deputies living that were allowed, I'm assuming by the sheriff's administration, to violate our civil service ordinance. So they are outside what our laws state right now, or our ordinance states right now. So we have an issue with that. Do we want to allow our deputies living outside our borders to have take-home cars so they can respond quickly to an emergency? Or do we want to keep it where it is right now, where any of the deputies, as of right now, any deputies that live outside our borders of Kenosha County should not have take-home cars? Are we going to take those away? Because if we leave the ordinance the way it is now, we have to take them away. So I would like to make a motion to remove on page 4-9, 4-7, number 9, the first part of that sentence. Except for unit members, I make a motion to remove, except for unit members assigned a vehicle that may be brought home and for whom residency in Kenosha County is required. Take that out and start the sentence, the established residency boundary for all other unit members is 20, that's how it is before us, miles in any direction from the borders of Kenosha County, and so forth. So that motion will allow our take-home deputies that currently have cars that live outside our borders to keep those cars.
Okay, so there's a motion to amend the motion by Supervisor Decker, second by Supervisor Rodriguez. Okay. Do you have what the motion is? Do you want to read it, or? Yeah. Or if you don't have it, can you read it again so everybody will know it?
The motion is to remove on page 4-7, section 9, the wording, except for unit members assigned a vehicle that may be brought home and for whom residency in Kenosha County is required. So the sentence will start with the word "the."
Okay.
Give that, you can give it to Reggie.
Okay, anything else on that you want to add? Okay, do have some lights here. I think there were before. I believe the first one is Supervisor Gans. Do you want to talk on the amendment? Okay, so you got the floor.
Was this through, to the chair of the committee, was this discussed at the committee? Was this actual amendment that's being proposed to us discussed at the committee? Okay, then why would it be brought up? Okay, I heard no, but.
Thank you. It wasn't, and to my knowledge, I didn't catch it. The sheriff himself did not catch it. If he's allowing for his deputies to take these squads home, this was caught after the fact. And administration outside the sheriff's department and the commission themselves did not catch this either. So this was caught, to my knowledge, in the last week.
Okay,
Okay.
I don't understand what caught means, but
Supervisor.
okay, discovered, whatever. So was the sheriff's department asked for input on this? Are they okay with this?
On changing this?
This amendment. I
On
mean,
the
I
pro-
think
on-
this should
okay.
be something, this amendment to the amendment. I
Point
think
of,
this
point
should-
of, point of order, Mr. Chairman. I'm being asked questions that I'm not being allowed to answer.
Okay. Ask the question, just to make sure.
Is the sheriff behind this amendment to the amendment?
I have not spoken to the sheriff, and I will not speak for him tonight.
Okay, okay, then this should.
Hold on.
Okay.
I believe, I understand that, but I believe the Supervisor Aaron, that she made the motion, or the amendment and the motion, she had spoken or received communication from the sheriff, so she can answer your question based on that.
Okay, I'll let that
Supervisor
fly.
Decker.
Go ahead.
I had called Clara Tappa yesterday because I had realized that this wording, and I was confused because of the sheriff's email, because they were conflicting. So I thought maybe I was reading the ordinance wrong, so I asked for a clarification from Clara. She couldn't clarify, so she recommended I call Corporation Counsel, and he had to look into it. This morning, / this afternoon, Clara and Chief Deputy Levin contacted me together on a conference call. We discussed it, and I asked them if it was okay, or if they, if I would remove that wording that I just requested, and they were in favor of it. If you speak differently to that, Ms. Tappa and Chief Deputy Levin, please feel free.
This afternoon.
Okay.
I had that conversation with Supervisor Decker this afternoon as it relates to the modification of the ordinance. We are in agreement with that modification as it would allow for the current situation with the take-home cars.
Thank you. My concern was that we have a committee meeting and this is not brought up and then there's an amendment made. So now that I know that all the parties are in agreement, thank you very much.
Anything else, Supervisor Gans?
On the amendment to the amendment, no.
Okay, another light that went on, I believe was Supervisor Franco. Did you want to speak on the amendment? No, my question's been answered. Okay. Next will be Supervisor Uwas.
My question has been answered as well.
Okay. I'm going to clear the board because I do have quite a few lights there. So if anybody wants to speak on anything, please push your button again.
I don't want to speak on the
Okay.
amendment. I thought we were moving on.
Okay. Anybody else wants to speak on the amendment? Supervisor Bashaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Perhaps it's just my concern, Chief Deputy. Having our squads 20 miles from Kenosha County puts them potentially in South Milwaukee? Potentially in South Milwaukee. It appears to me that creates a great benefit for that officer that's traveling that distance. I know what it cost me in fuel today. I know what it does for my automobile on that amount of time on the road. then they're taking home, and what I heard was they're taking home a squad that is fully equipped to deploy at that moment, yes?
Yes,
But when they come into the community center, they come in to pick up a squad, it's not equipped, ready to deploy at that moment.
I don't know if I understand in
If
regards
they
to
have to come
deployment.
into here, downtown, if they have to come in to pick up a squad, then they have to load, prepare, and get that squad ready to go. What's not prepared at that time when they arrive to go to the field?
As it relates to a take-home vehicle, the vehicle they have at home is fully deployable. They have all their equipment with them when they're, in essence, having their vehicle at home or their residence. When they have to come to the department to pick up a vehicle, they have to load their vehicle and prepare it with their equipment.
Okay. So that equipment is specifically assigned to them. They take it out of their vehicle if it stays inside the department storage area or parking area. But if they take it home, they keep all their equipment in the automobile overnight in the driveway, ready to jump in and go to work. So
Correct, sir.
Personally, I have concerns with county vehicles being that far away from the county. As a personal take-home, I like the take-home plan. I really do. I like the ability to deploy from the driveway, especially in the western parts of the county. I have consternation about having a squad in Illinois, then deploying back, especially when we know that Illinois won't even back up our squads when they cross the border in pursuit of a criminal. It just troubles me that our squads are that far outside of our jurisdiction to have them ready to deploy when it seems to me they could be just as ready to deploy when they arrive at station. Driving 20 minutes in, 25 minutes in from a 20-mile distance, 30 minutes in from a distance like that, I wonder if maybe we should not be allowing squads for take-home for officers who reside at a great distance outside the county. Minimal distance, okay, I may accept that, but a great distance outside the county. So I have concerns about it, and I'll think about them and address them as we go forward with the votes.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Supervisor Berg on the amendment?
Chief, I think there was some confusion. The take-home vehicle that they have, that's their vehicle, correct?
That is the vehicle they
So
operate.
when they come back to this, when they come to the city, they're not taking their stuff from their take-home vehicle into another vehicle, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I think there was a confusion on that. So the take-home vehicle they have, that is their vehicle for their shift.
Correct.
Okay, the next question I have, what Supervisor Bashad just spoke about, is that accurate that Illinois does not back us up? I seem to remember a case a few years ago where there was a chase of an individual that we were looking for about a couple weeks. Didn't we work together on that?
There are times when Illinois refuses to engage in certain pursuits. It usually relates to the type of offense that the pursuit is for.
Okay. Can you be more detailed? Like what is that?
I would say serious felonies. They will engage misdemeanors, more than likely not. But there are some agencies that would engage. Illinois State Patrol. I don't believe Lake County Sheriff, McHenry County Sheriff engages. There are other jurisdictions that will.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Supervisor Berg?
Negative.
Any other supervisor on the amendment? Supervisor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through the chair to the Chief's Deputy, in your opinion, and if you can speak on behalf of the Sheriff, his opinion too, this is a beneficial program, the Take Home Squad program.
I believe it is.
And to your knowledge, and if I'm remembering correctly, the Take Home Squad program is a cost-saving program as well.
I believe so.
And these deputies, like all of us with our vehicles, when they're driving the same vehicle every day, they notice when something's wrong faster, you might say, than if it's a car that they're not used to driving.
They tend to take better care of these vehicles, yes.
Because they take a sense of ownership, if you will?
Sense of pride.
Yeah. I'm going to support this motion. It sounds like This ordinance was overlooked. I don't think there was any ill intent on behalf of the Sheriff's Department. But we talk about recruitment and retention. This is definitely a perk. I'll call it what it is. But it's a perk to keep good talent. And I'm going to support this. Oftentimes, and we heard this at the Judiciary and Law Committee, you don't want to get into the slippery slope of, okay, well, he can do it, and she can, but he can't, and some exemptions, and some other people don't get exemptions. So that's what would worry me with, well, if you're, just outside the county, well then, okay, but if you're a little bit further, I just think that muddies the water. So it's for those reasons that I'll be supporting this motion to amend number 9 on 4.7. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see any more lights on the amendment, so, okay, the question has been called.
Roll call.
Roll call, I'm sorry. Sorry. Okay, roll call on the amendment. If you're in favor of the amendment, you guys understand the amendment, or you want us to repeat it? Okay, all in favor say yes. Well, say yes, vote yes. Supervisor Besha, okay. Yeah. Okay, motion passes. Okay, on the original motion with the amendment, I believe Supervisor Gens was the first one to speak.
Thank you. Every change I was okay with, except the mile thing. Our state statute says 15 miles, from what I understand, and the Sheriff's Department came out against this at Judiciary and Law. The Sheriff's Union came out against this at Judiciary and Law. I just think it's a response issue, so I don't think it's a good idea. Also, I mean, if you're talking about attracting and retaining, you set it at 20 miles. What's wrong with 25 miles? What's wrong with 30 miles? I mean, what's the arbitrary 20 miles? You think that's going to increase the number of candidates? Like I said, I don't mind the other changes, but I look at a response time, even if they have their vehicles, and that's, I mean, 5 extra miles is quite a bit to get to a scene. So I'll be voting against it. Thank you.
Okay. Supervisor Rodriguez?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to go off of what Supervisor Gens said and correct the record. There were no Sheriff's Deputy Union representatives at our meeting at Judiciary and Law. And we heard from the sheriff himself, who had concerns of this, but we also heard from some of his, top of the totem pole folks saying that maybe they weren't for it, but they also were kind of indifferent for it as well. So I just want to correct that. And I have spoken to several deputies in person and online and such. They're excited for this change. For some of them, it means that they can keep their job. Others, it means they can move a little bit closer to family. And I think those are all things that people take very seriously when they decide whether to stay employed where they're employed. So, thank you.
Anybody else? Supervisor again.
How many sheriff's deputies live between 15 and 20 miles away from the county line?
Right now, none, because they're not allowed to live 20 miles away.
All right. So, I mean, the one person that did bring this up and brought it up to the county executive office is no longer employed by the Sheriff's Department. So nobody is looking to make this, get back in line with the rules that we have. So, I mean, to say that we're doing this for the people who live out there, there's none that live in that range right now. So basically, you're just increasing this 5 miles, and to me, it's a response time rather than a moving 5 miles closer. That's why I'm going to vote against it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Supervisor Rodriguez.
Thank you. Again, I want to clarify, we did not do this for any one deputy. To date, there is a mystery deputy out there that we have heard about many times tonight, and we've heard about since the Judiciary and Law meeting. I don't know who this deputy is, what he or she decided to do. Well, I know what they decided to do. I don't know who it is. We don't know who it is. So this assumption that there's this mystery deputy out here that we're bending the rules for is not true. And again, in all the times I've spoken with the deputies, just in day-to-day contact, not one of them, though they're excited for this change, has indicated that they can't wait to move to the very 20th mile of the county. It just makes certain aspects of their life easier. And I can't imagine that when we hire folks, if they're driving 20 miles every day, I certainly would try to eventually move closer. I spoke with one deputy today, and he told me he's worked twice now officially for Kenosha County. The first time, years ago, he joined the Sheriff's Department. He was unaware of the residency requirement and wasn't aware of that until he started on his first day. And so he worked throughout that entire probationary period, if you will, and then he effectively resigned per the ordinance because he lived too far. So then he had to, when life allowed, move closer to the county and reapply and kind of start over, if you will. And that's what I think those instances could be saved here. And again, if you're living in Vernon Hills and you get a job at the Kenosha County Sheriff's Department, I would hope that you move much closer, especially move into the county. The cost of living here is lower. I mean, there's just common sense things that, we're not pushing our deputies out, but we're allowing for more leniency to bring deputies in. So that's all.
Supervisor Bashaw.
Mr. Chairman, if I could ask a question through the chair to the chief deputy.
Okay. Chief?
I did have a conversation with Sheriff Beth. However, I'm not going to try to channel his opinion. He is a constituent to my district, thus he called me personally to discuss this. Based on your knowledge, relationship, and understanding, could you share what your perspective is of the 15 versus 20 mile, or if you happen to have knowledge of what the sheriff's perspective is of this change?
I would strictly speak to my perspective of it. 15 miles from the border of Kenosha County seems significant to me, as when I was hired on to the Sheriff's Department in 1990, you had to live within the four corners of Kenosha County. You couldn't live outside the boundaries. The purpose of having deputies live closer than further away is truly response of safety and security to the citizens of Kenosha County. 15 miles, as Mr. Rodriguez indicates as the crow flies, is not necessarily how somebody drives directly to the border of Kenosha County and or to where they need to be. Regardless of the call for service when a deputy either A is called in or summons into work for an emergency situation and or when they have to just generally report to duty, that is a significant drive-in. Extending it beyond 15 miles just extends that time. Time is of the essence during an emergency situation. We hope that there are less of those and just more of just coming to work. But 15 miles seems significant to me. 20 miles seems more significant. I'm comfortable with 15, but Mr. Rodriguez feels that maybe 20 miles would enhance our traction to come to the Sheriff's Department. That's yet to be seen.
Thank you, Chief Deputy. And that is consistent with what my constituents shared with me as well. So I addressed the concern that I had with 20 at the committee meeting as well. I have approved and voted yay for the agreement in its entirety because it does have other components to it that I felt were very beneficial and needed to happen. So I'm still not comfortable with 20 for the same reasons I cited then, but we'll go from there. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Franco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I too was a little concerned about this particular amendment. I thought it was kind of arbitrary, frankly. Personally, I think we either have a residency requirement or we don't. You know, trying to draw distances, I think, is, well, arbitrary. That's why I didn't support this particular amendment, though there were several amendments that were brought up that I did agree with, and overall, that's why I voted for this particular resolution. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see anybody else. Oh,
I would like to make an amendment to change it back, to leave what the committee brought forward in its integrity, other than, I'd like to make an amendment to remove the 20 and make it 15 again. So that we don't have to change what the committee did, except for the mileage issue. I think responses, Supervisor Rodriguez can come at me with all kinds of attraction stuff, but it's still a response thing, so I'd like to make that amendment. Thank you.
okay, and I believe there was a second from Supervisor US.
We changed it to 20.
Okay, motion to amend it, striking the 15,
The
or
20.
sorry, the 20 and making to 15. Okay, let me clear the board. And anybody wants to speak on it? Any supervisor wants to speak on it? Okay. Roll call. Okay. Yes if you're in favor, no if you're against it. In other words, yes if you wanna change it to 15, and no if you wanna leave it at 20. Right? Okay. Oops.
The motion-
I just messed up. I was going to say,
Oh.
how do I change it?
Oh, how did you want to vote?
Vote no.
The motion fails.
Okay, now, on the original motion with the amendment, any discussions on that? Supervisor Rodriguez?
I'll call a question.
Okay, the question has been... Do we need to call the question? There was nobody on the board, really. Okay. All right, we need two-thirds. Okay, vote yes if you want to call the question. No if you want to keep on talking.
And then give a second for Alyssa to set it up, please.
We need a second? No. We need a second?
Who's seconding?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Who's second? Is that a second to call the question?
We're this far, might as well somebody throw it out.
Second by Supervisor Belsky. Okay, vote yes.
Thanks, Laura.
Okay, now it's yes.
Yes? Call the question.
To call the question. What's that word? Yeah.
The motion passes.
Okay, now, let's vote on the original motion with the amendment. All those in favor?
Aye.
Roll call, okay. Yes if you're in favor, no if you're opposed. Okay, passes.
Motion passes. Sorry.
No, it's all right, sorry. Okay.
New business, Policy Resolution 1, first reading, 2 required. From Supervisor Decker in the Public Works Facilities and Judiciary and Law Enforcement Committees, a resolution to amend the 2011 Resolution 63. Resolution 1 reading, Resolution 4 from the Judiciary and Law Enforcement Committee, a resolution to approve the activity control license for Country Thunder East LLC, passed unanimously at committee.
Supervisor Rodriguez.
Hold on, I got a thing on my iPad.
You need to move it
It's
first.
shutting down, so I don't know what resolution number it is. Move Resolution 4.
Okay, moved by Supervisor Rodriguez, second by Supervisor Besha. Supervisor Rodriguez.
Hold on, I think I'm getting it back up. Oh, it's verifying an update. Okay, I'm going to try to ad-lib it. Well, I had notes for it. So this is the activity control permit. Is that the right word?
License.
License, thank you. Again, I'm not reading it. This essentially allows for the gathering of approximately 25, I think it was 25,000 people, again, in my notes.
Would you want,
Per,
would you want Captain Gonzalez 12?
yeah, give me my buddy Gonzalez up here. He gave me a ride along last year at Country Thunder, so he's quite intimate with his knowledge of what's going on.
Can you repeat the question, please?
This is, it was approximately 25,000 people a day are going to be at Country Thunder, is that correct?
Correct. It's an approximate figure.
And everything is going to be relatively the same as in years past, correct?
That's correct.
And their conditional use permit has already been passed by the public, or, excuse me, the PDAC committee?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. And then there was concern at the Judiciary and Law Committee meeting that Country Thunder had not yet posted their $275,000 bond that was posted, you said yesterday, Captain Gonzalez?
That's correct, yesterday afternoon.
And that reflects a $25,000 increase from years past, correct?
That's actually a $50,000 increase.
50,000, excuse me. Again, I'm looking at the Apple logo here. Just want to clarify, and we did this at Judiciary and Law meeting, committee meeting as well, for the new supervisors. What that bond covers is all of our expenses as an agency to be there, essentially. Everything, fuel costs, overtime, everything.
Correct, all supplies.
So no tax dollars are being spent out there. I think that's everything. Thank you.
So, any comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Passes. Thank you, Captain.
Resolution 5 from the Public Works and Facilities Committee, a resolution to appoint Brian Bashaw to the Pringle Nature Center Board. Passed unanimously at committee. Supervisors Belsky, O'Day, and Stocker excused.
Supervisor Nordigan. Moved by Supervisor Nordigan, second by Supervisor Stock. Supervisor Nordigan.
Yeah, this is a board position that the county fills, and Supervisor Bashaw, this will be the first time on this board, and it was unanimously voted on the Judiciary and Law Committee to approve, I'm sorry, on the Public Works, Committee to approve them.
Okay. Supervisor US.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a few supervisors reach out to ask me if I was being removed from the Pringle Nature Center by the county exec or by the chairman, and I'd like to state tonight that that's not the case. I felt it best that I resign from the Pringle Nature Center Board, as I do not represent that district anymore where the Pringle Nature Center is located. And after talking with Supervisor Bashaw, I feel confident that he'll be able to work diligently on behalf of the Pringle Nature Center. And I look forward to him champion for the budget, and I'm going to be watching you. So I fully support his appointment, and I hope everyone will join me.
Any other comments? Supervisor Bashaw.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be abstaining.
Okay. Seeing nobody else, everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Passes with one abstention, Supervisor Bishop.
Resolution 6 from the Public Works and Facilities Committee, a resolution to appoint Laura Belsky to the Kemper Center Board. Passed unanimously at committee with Supervisors Belsky, O'Day, and Stocker excused.
Supervisor Nordigan.
Move the resolution.
Moved by Supervisor Nordigan, second by Supervisor Thomas. Supervisor Nordigan.
Supervisor Belsky is very involved in much of Kenosha and Kenosha area, and Kemper Center being I guess I'm going to call it a gem, or will be very close to being a gem very soon, needs individuals like Laura on that board in order to continue its progression forward. So, as stated by Reggie, that the committee did unanimously support her.
Thank you. Supervisor Blasky.
Chairman Nudo, I'll be abstaining from this vote.
So noted. Okay, seeing no other lights, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Passes.
Communication 7, communication from Supervisor Thomas, a resolution prohibiting the acceptance of grants or donations from non-governmental entities for purposes of funding the administration of elections.
Refer to Finance Committee.
Communication 8 from the Kenosha Sheriff's Department, a resolution to approve the appointment of Brooks Litz to serve as a member of the Kenosha County Local Emergency Planning Committee, Group Number 4, Community Group.
Refer to Judiciary and Law.
Communication 9 from Kenosha Sheriff's Department regarding a resolution to accept the 2022 Walmart Foundation Grant Discharge Planner Program.
Refer to Judiciary and Law and Finance.
The approval of the May 17th, 2022 minutes by Supervisor Bashaw.
Supervisor Bashaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have reviewed the minutes in detail, and I did not find any errors to my recollection, so I move that we approve the minutes from May 17, 2022.
Okay, moved by Supervisor Bashaw, second by Supervisor Rodriguez. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Nay. Motion to adjourn by Supervisor Grady, I believe, and second by Supervisor Berg. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Oppose? We're adjourned.